Hey there YouTube, welcome back to another and the second black powder video for this week. Now, as I mentioned in my last video, I basically painted my artillery unit so fast that I actually decided on the second day that I was basically going to finish them that day, and it was only 2 days into the week, so I had to kind of, either just not do anything for the rest of the week, or actually be productive and actually try and do some more of the, admittedly smaller jobs that are left to do when you start getting towards the end of a brigade. So what I decided to do is I decided to do the Prince of Saxe-Weimar. Now, I can actually fully go into the story about how this guy became the brigade commander for this particular unit. Now, before before we go into the story, let's just cover the makes of the figures and stuff. So both of these figures are Perry's. They both come from the box that he comes with. I decided to, now obviously there's 3 figures initially in that pack, and I thought, well, because he is a lowly brigade commander, normally he would just be on a base on his own, but because he's kind of like a personality, somewhat perhaps a minor personality, he does deserve a little bit of a special base. So I decided to actually mount him up alongside a sort of aide-de-camp or staff officer of in Nassau uniform, because obviously the brigade has both the not only the Orange Nassau in their blue, but also the 2nd Nassau in their green. So I thought, there would be Nassau staff officers running around too. So I thought it would be quite a nice combination of showing like the flavours of the brigade by putting him on there too. So let's get going. I'll bring you in for a closer look at them, and I'll kind of go through the story, the full story of what happened and how this guy went from a colonel to a major general in a relatively short time. So let's get going. So here we have I decided to go for, obviously because of size, the size of the base basically, I had to kind of narrow down what I could do. It's 2 figures is a bit of a squeeze on these sort of 60mm rounders, but at the same time I wanted to try and make it special. I found this nice piece of rock here, which I've kind of just been waiting for something to use it on. I thought it'd be really useful for this particular base. I think it sort of, it kind of gives the idea that it's something like that's been worked on, by human hands. It's kind of like just a little bit too perfect shape to be something natural. So perhaps it was like a stone pillar or something like that that's been hit by a cannonball. I think it looks really cool actually. In fact, it actually looks cooler on camera than now I'm actually sort of like properly focusing on it than perhaps when I actually decided to add it to the base. So again, the way I did the terrain on the base was similar to the artillery. I built the base up first, and actually then stuck the figures down after sort of imprinting their stands onto the clay, and then sort of stuck them down. It's a really good. They're not going to fall off. It seems to have worked really well, yeah, I'm really happy with the way the base turned out figures wise now. So we have start with the staff officer now. This guy is in a similar sort of position to the other chap, the one from the Duke of Brunswick that's getting on a horse. Really nice position. I found that this guy seemed to go into position a lot easier than the first time I used a similar sort of figure. I had to sort of play around with it a little bit with his position to try and get him to sort of look like he was properly getting onto a horse. This guy seemed to just go to sort of fall into position straight away with very little effort, and I think he looks really cool actually. Gave him a bay horse with sort of some dark markings. I actually used charcoal grey to give him a sort of a black greyish looking marking on his nose and around his socks, which I think looks really cool actually. And like I say, he's kind of done up in Nassau colours to represent the the brigade. Basically, the brigade is made up of both Orange Nassau and Orange Nassau. Then we have his the actual main man himself. Try and get his full title. It's Prince Bernhard of Saxe-Weimar, and it's quite a nice figure. I've got him kind of looking off away from the staff officer, his horse kind of just trotting along. Again, I thought, well, because obviously I'll get to the full story in a second, but this guy was basically initially the head of the 28th, the commanding officer of the 28th at the rank of colonel, and he basically, within the space of 2 or 3 days, found himself as a major general and given command of the brigade. And because of his sort of such high upping of rank, I decided to sort of give him a combination of his regular uniform that he would have wore as a colonel, and mixed in what little accoutrements he could have got hold of to go with what his rank befits him. So he's kind of more or less in his original uniform, apart from the fact that he's managed to get hold of some white breeches, and obviously his he would have attached the correct shoulder pauldrons for his rank. Normally Dutch generals have gold epaulets, although obviously because these guys have silver ones, perhaps they just added the attachments to make him the equivalent rank. But other than that, he's more or less in his still in his sort of colonel's. Still got the same shabrack, the same sword. I don't know if he would have changed that. If I mean, presumably you would think they would. If you were not in combat and promoted to such a high rank, you would go out and get a new uniform or whatever. But this guy is kind of brevetted, and therefore has to come up with what he can. I've given him again a really nice white horse. I really like this sort of grey effect, and how I actually use that is I actually after sort of base coating the horse initially, I think I base coat them. I base prime in white. Then I give them a wash. Normally a wash of sort of watered down black ink, but in this case I gave him a wash of is it apothecary white contrast paint, and a little bit further down the line I actually give him another coat of apothecary white on the mane, and it makes this really nice sort of grey tail and mane, which goes really well with the white horse. And of course I've given him a different style, a different shade of pink on this horse's pinky bits, because we all know that white horses are prone to having a lot of pink flash, because it's all to do with the pigment of the skin, the actual white colour of the horse. And if you take a real close look at him, he's actually not white. He's actually a very, very pale grey. So that is the prince's horse and the prince himself. And now let's go into that story. So basically, before three or 4 days before hostilities broke out at Waterloo, the brigade commander of the 2nd Brigade of the 2nd Netherlands was a chap called Major. No, let me just try and remember his name now. It's kind of slipped my mind. Oh yes, Col Von Godecke, I think it's pronounced. Now he was attending a parade 3 or 4 days before hostilities broke out, and he actually got a major kick on the shin by a horse, and this basically took him out of action. So he basically had to give up his command, and I think it was actually the morning of the breaking out of hostilities that the Prince of Colonel, the Prince of Saxe-Weimar at that particular time, who was the commanding officer of the 28th Orange Nassau, was brevetted to not only brigade commander but also to. Now, I've actually read conflicting information about what rank he was actually promoted to. I've read that he was just promoted to a brigadier general in one particular piece that I read, and then I think I've read that he was actually promoted to major general in a couple of different places. So I presume that's probably more the truth. Now, I'm not sure why he would have got promoted so highly, especially when he was taking the position of somebody who was a colonel anyway. But perhaps they just thought that perhaps because he's a prince, he deserved a higher rank. So he took over command of the brigade, and that of course left his, I believe it's his cousin, the Duke of Saxe-Weimar, von Steffel. Is it von Steffel? Von Dressell, sorry. Von Dressell to take command of the 28th, and that's of course left his second in command, who as I explained in the one of my last videos, that he actually he became the commander of the actual 1st Battalion. Now that chap, of course, is unknown. I haven't been able to find out exactly who it was. So of course I named him von Witzland, and he became the first, the commanding officer of the 1st Battalion of the 28th Orange Nassau. So quite an odd little story of somebody who was basically a colonel one day, and then a major general and in command of a brigade the next. But yeah, overall I'm pretty happy with him. Like I say, a brigade commander in the command scale of things is a pretty insignificant figure, and therefore generally I'll just have the one guy on a stand. Now division commanders would generally have this sort of standard of base where they might have an extra figure or two, and of course the brigade commander of this, not brigade commander, the divisional commander of this, the 2nd Netherlands, is actually Perpotchner. I think no, it's not Perpotchner, is it? Yes, it is Perpotchner. And he will have a similar sized base, but I have got extra figures for his base to try and make it. He's actually a on foot figure in this particular in the guise that I actually have him. Now I did actually spot that. In fact, actually, this is kind of not really relevant to this particular chap. But anyway, that I'm going to actually call it a day here. Yeah, really happy with this chap. I think I quite like. Initially I was kind of a little bit dubious about putting the Nassau guy on. I thought, well, I might as well, if it's his own sort of staff officer, then he would be in orange, the Orange Nassau colours. But at the same time, I thought, well, it's a good representation of the sort of diversity of the brigade. The fact that they're not only made up of Orange Nassau, but they're also made up of actual Nassau too, and therefore I really do like the sort of contrast that the guy in the green uniform makes over the Prince Bernhard himself. So that's it. That's the end of the second video. So look out for the third video. Again, like I say, I finished these guys really quick. I started them on the second day when I'd basically worked out that I was going to finish my artillery battery that day. Luckily I already had these guys primed, so that kind of saved a bit of time. I basically just blue tacked them to their bases, and sort of painted them, and again I painted them really quickly. Again, like by the next day they're practically done, and yeah, I basically was just finishing these guys off as I started work on the third thing that I did, which of course you will find out pretty soon, because they are of course the third video that I'm going to release this weekend. So yeah, that's the end. Hope you enjoyed it. As you do know, all the usual blurb. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, thanks for leaving comments, it's always appreciated. And yeah, that's the Prince Brigadier or Major General Bernard, Prince of Saxe-Weimar, Brigade Commander of the 2nd Netherlands Division. And that's it. So until my next video, which should be up, I'll catch you all next time. Bye bye. Give you a quick zoom in. There we go. Bye bye.